Oh yeah, yep. Can you put those other green ones back in there, please? Because they'll charge. Oh, hello, welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed the tour from earlier, but I realized my mistake. I actually forgot the little baby microphone. But guess what? I got a round 2 this afternoon. So I'm actually going to be walking around again, and we're going to view the Expeditionary Warfare Lab and the Simulation something lab. I should have wrote notes. Sorry. But yeah, so some pretty cool things that you guys were able to see in the labs. And so one of the things we love is we're in this age of technology. We have another virtual speaker. So he's going to be presenting Mr. Joshua Blunt. And whenever I see someone from NIWC-LANT, if you guys had known earlier, I've worked with Steve here at Naval X. So anybody that says I'm from NIWC-LANT, I say, hey, do you know Steve Frail? If you don't know him, you got to know him. Steve, NIWC-LANT employee. But yeah, so while we're bringing him up, just to let you guys know, yeah, we're going to be taking a tour, I think, a little bit later on this afternoon, and we'll be walking around, and we will meet at the registration table outside because we're going to go on a field trip. So make sure you have your walking shoes on. We're going to take a field trip, and we'll bring the virtual audience on. Joshua, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Joshua. Yes, we can. Do you know Steve Frail?
I have met him now, and because of him, that is the only reason I'm here.
Nice. Awesome. All right, the floor is yours. Well, the screen, I guess. Thanks.
All right, I'll hit share. And again, I apologize. I do not have a camera, so you can't see my ugly mug, but I'm going to share my screen and put up the presentation here. So get rolling. If you could just let me know when you see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Great, thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joshua Blunt. I lead and support several initiatives for our CIO team here at the Naval Information Warfare Center in Atlantic. The IPT catalog is one of those initiatives that I'm going to be sharing with you here today. So I'm going to go to the next slide. This IPT catalog initiative actually originated from our One Team Strategic Steering Committee, and that was stood up and chartered by our NIWC Atlantic Business Board to evaluate applying team of teams principles within our culture. For those of you not familiar with it, the team of teams principles that you see on this slide were developed by General McChrystal to help turn the tides of the war on terror against Al Qaeda. He provides his experiences in the framework for Team of Teams in his book called Team of Teams that you can see over here on the left-hand side. And then one of his aide-de-camps also wrote another book called One Mission, and that dives deeper into how you apply these principles to a command or an organization to help foster a culture of Team of Teams. So the two that I'm going to discuss here with you today that helped drove this initiative are the top two on both sides: shared consciousness and aligning narrative. And I often get asked, well, what does shared consciousness mean? And I'm sure maybe some of you might be aware of it now or might not know. And so for those of you that don't and have asked that question, thanks for asking. If you were to Google shared consciousness, it comes up with a term also called collective consciousness. It's used to describe people within a social group that become aware of their shared traits and circumstances. And rather than continuing to exist as separate individuals or teams, these group of people come together and they serve as dynamic groups and they share their resources and knowledge, acting as a community and achieving solidarity. So I'm sure that most of us have either seen or experienced something of this, in our own work lives or at team levels throughout our organizations, as it does happen within pockets. But making something like this part of the entire command culture and building a shared consciousness at that level requires a foundational construction, and that's built on what is called that aligning narrative. An aligning narrative is something that gets the entire organization focused on a specific mission and vision and those common traits and shared circumstances. So for us here at NIWC Atlantic, one of the first steps we took towards that was our 2019-2020 execution plan. It laid out our vision, our mission, the core products that make up all of our teams, people, product, and processes. And it also incorporated some of our guiding principles that focus on the mission and warfighter, how we're supposed to act, embody integrity, championing service, enabling teamwork, and embracing ownership and empowerment. That's how we're supposed to conduct ourselves and conduct our teams. And all of that is built on the Department of Navy core values: honor, courage, and commitment. So this was actually pushed out to our entire command, all our departments, our competencies, our teams looked at these three key pieces here of each team. And these goals were universal. And every team had to develop objectives that, went towards these goals. So we're all kind of marching towards the same drumbeat now. So With that in mind and everybody looking at the same direction, how do we take this and bring it forward? So if we look at our teams and pull all that together and we focus on one of the specific things is communications, right? As you guys are all aware, vertical comms, right? We have to communicate up and down the chain. We need to get information up to leadership on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, so on and so forth. Nothing new there, right? But if we're trying to develop a shared consciousness environment, 80 to 90% of the comms right now in most organizations is probably this. And especially now in the COVID environment, one of the things that I keep hearing throughout many of my meetings and efforts that I'm attending with leadership across the board is everybody's got their head down doing their work in this environment right now, right? We're all trying to get on board. When we got hit, we had to set up the virtual comms. We had to get some tools in place so we could continue to support the warfighter and help them deliver on the expectations and our commitments to them. So it's vitally important that that continues. But how do we get to what we call the shared consciousness norm, right? So this is where people are interacting between teams. You see those little blue guys going back and forth there. In the books, they term those guys boundary spanners. So those are folks when they see a need or they connect a dot between teams, they see some similarities, they reach out, they make those connections, they establish those relationships, and they begin to share those lessons learned and best practices. Again, going back to the definition of shared consciousness, like I said earlier, this does happen, right? Here at our command, we have what we call communities of interest, where we pick like a specific topic, for example, like 5G, um, model-based systems engineering, digital engineering, software development. There's some key topics, and we build communities around those. But not all our teams, even in our command, are aware of those communities. And I myself, when I was in the IPT world, for the first 10 years of working at LANT, I mean, my head was down. I was focused on my work. I was knocking out the stuff I was executing, but I wasn't aware of everything that was going on around me. So, in order to help establish this norm and make it to where it's not such an ad hoc method where you have to know somebody, we have to build in something and provide something centralized that folks can come to and utilize to help share that information and establish those solid lines of communication. And that's where it drove us to this IPT catalog. So, here in the middle, we developed this catalog and it pulls in all information from the command, different authoritative sources, and provides that window of awareness for everybody to come into. So now those boundary spanners, anybody in the command, doesn't have to know anybody. They can just come up to the catalog. They can do some search based on a key technology or a specific process or something they're interested in, and they can see who else is doing that work in the command. And we have some POC information in there, so they can reach out and establish some of those solid lines of communication and relationships across the teams. And at the same time, this helps augment the vertical comms, right? Now we've got some high level data that the leadership can come in and they can review. We've recently had an ED come in. Well, I say recently, but it's been a couple of years when our ED come in. Instead of having to go around to each department, division, we could have had a tool like this. He could have come in and taken his time and read through something. It's all pulled together in one source. And then one of our other deliverables that we have for our IPTs is on the right there is those slick sheets. Uh, Same concept as the catalog. This was before the catalog, where we at each IPT there was a requirement to fill out some information, provide some high level summary data, and maybe some key points about the work that your IPT does in support of the warfighter. And those slick sheets would go through PAO approval process, so we can take them out to events such as these, and we could share information on the type of work that we're doing or out to recruitment events and share that with folks at colleges and so on and so forth. And so this gives us a mean to standardize that and have the IPTs manage it within the catalog and actually export the slick sheets instead of having to maintain it on their own desktop somewhere with Adobe Pro, right? So again, just trying to help provide and make it easier for them to view the information and make it useful. So continuing on the topic of those goals, just to highlight some of them again, I hit vertical comms, but the big piece is that horizontal comms, right? We want to try to have something that helps foster that shared consciousness and establish those relationships across teams so that we can leverage that subject matter expertise and the tools and processes that people are using. This will help us not to reinvent the wheel so we're not paying more than once. Since I've kind of moved up and got to the CIO and I've seen more of the work that's done throughout the command, I mean, I can tell there's so many different teams that are doing the same kind of work, delivering the same kind of capabilities, and they're not even aware of it. They're not leveraging the expertise. They're going and discovering the same thing that somebody else has already discovered. If we can tap into that, then we can help by not reinventing the wheel, and then we can reduce some outsourcing. We can grow our in-house expertise. And then hopefully that will also provide meaningful standardization, via sharing and collaboration. And then on top of that, right, with reducing outsourcing, that this can help augment and foster, mentoring and cross training. We have brown bags that we set up on a monthly basis between teams to share ideas and concepts and efforts that are going on. Again, I touched on the communities of interest, get folks involved in those, or even stand up new communities of interest based on new pieces that are coming out, such things as like DevSecOps or artificial intelligence, things that people are really starting to dive into now. And then spotlights, we have what we do, engineering spotlights. I think it's about every other Friday, where we highlight a specific engineering effort by the command. And then again, I mentioned the slick sheets. Now, unfortunately, right before this happened, or we started today, I was going to give a demo. So let me see if the test environment has come back up, because it did drop on me. So I'm going to try it real quick. And if I can get it up, I will actually demo it to you, the catalog environment. If not, then you'll have to bear with me and I'll speak towards an image, and then hopefully I can convey um, that information. So just give it maybe 10, 15 seconds. I can do the Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. All right, that was a little bit shorter, so it's not coming through. So what I'm going to do then is we have a user guide that we developed that will actually walk the teams and the IPTs through how to fill out the catalog. Um, I worked with my PAO beforehand, and they gave me permission to do the test environment that I was trying to pull up there, because it doesn't have any live data in it. And so some of this has live data. So I'm just going to stay focused here on this piece, because this is not live data. There's not anything here that's not in the test catalog already. So this would be what you would see when you come into the catalog. Um, right now, what we have delivered is what we're calling our MVP product, our minimum viable product, to just get this out there, start getting some feedback from the command, see if they believe that this is something that'll help accomplish those goals that I talked about, help facilitate that shared consciousness. And we want to make this as less of a burden on our teams as possible. So most of the information that you actually see filled out here, where it has the IPT name, the lead POC, the department division, and so on and so forth over here, is actually pulled from existing authoritative sources that they're required to go into and fill out that information for their projects. So we don't want them to have to do it twice, right? So we were able to pull all that information in, and then any field you don't see here, like IPT description, is what they would be required to fill in. And over here on the left-hand side, we have a filters column so that they can come in and they can filter if, again, they're looking for some key specific information. I'll touch on key technologies here. If they were doing artificial intelligence or MBSE, and maybe they're looking to see if anybody's using a specific technology, they could type it in here. It would render any IPT that's doing that work, and then they can make that connection and start hopefully collaborating to execute some of their work together as a team and a community. Um, I'm not going to dive into everything here, but again, that's the major intent there for that filter feature. And then we also have a global catalog search that'll search the whole um, table, not just specific fields for key pieces. So ideally, it takes IPTs 30 minutes to come in here and provide their information. Most of the information that we have picked as data fields to be included in this catalog actually comes from the slick sheets. So it's just a quick copy and paste for them. And again, it gets it in a centralized place. Right now, most of this information, or that kind of information on those slick sheets, is native there. And then it's also scattered throughout other sources where each IPTs have their own page, right? So some of these fields that we're looking at, if I can scroll up a piece, I think, yep, this is good, um, are the key tasks, which is kind of like design, installation, sustainment. So if folks are looking to see who else is doing design, they can come in here and find folks and see what processes they're using or things that they may be looking at. Specific focus areas, which is kind of specific to our command, but it's like focusing on specific topics like artificial intelligence, if you will. And then the three that we thought were very relevant were processes, resource tools is employed, and key technologies. Um, Especially at a working level, if I was one of those guys with my head down and I was starting to work on a new technology or a new process or resource, I could come in and see if anybody else was standing up something similar in their teams or were leveraging or delivering something similar to the warfighters. And then I could utilize that information, hopefully set up some contacts, and we could work together to help, increase speed to capability and get stuff moving out the door faster for the warfighter. Communities of interest was another one. Again, we have COIs, so that's like a precursor, in my opinion, or not a precursor, but just another additional piece of a framework that helps establish that shared consciousness. So right now we do have some set COIs. I don't have them listed here. I'm sorry. I would have shown you a few of them in the catalog. But the idea being, when new stuff comes in, maybe people start getting together and say, hey, you know what, let's create a COI. And then they'll go through the formal process of creating that COI, pulling other people, and then stand up that community. So again, having something central like this allows us and our teams to dynamically build that across the board instead of having to know people. Instead of having to work your way up the chain to find out information, now it can be all readily available here. And again, I apologize. There was a lot more I'd like to dive into and show you how it works. We've made it super easy and not something that is going to have to be updated all the time. And hopefully, one of the things from this discussion, when we get to the open discussion, is I'd be interested to hear if anybody else is doing something similar in their command, or if they're looking at the Jupyter Advana environments and they started working with that. Eventually, our intent is to get this fully populated so that when we start looking at Jupyter and the Advana environment, we want to look to pull in data to share with other commands to do a similar effort of shared consciousness across organizations. So hopefully there'll be some good discussion on that here after this. So I'm going to cut back over to the presentation and hit my last slide. So where are we going to go in the future, right? What do we want to do? So right now, the slick sheets, if I'd have got the opportunity to show you, I would have exported the information out, put it in a nice PDF format with a solid picture. And right now it's just static. Again, minimal viable or MVP product. We just had static fields, but what we want to do is make this customizable. That way, if IPTs are going to different events and they want to highlight specific information instead of something else, they can customize a slick sheet with that information and process it. And then we also want to have it to where we build in the PAO approval process. So now instead of having to send an email manually, we can have it create the slick sheet and automatically send it to PAO, and they can go through the formal approval process, and we can store those approved slick sheets within the catalog for those IPTs. The next piece we want to look at is associating personnel data to teams. We have what we call an alpha roster with with all of our personnel and all the information where they're located and what they're doing. If we can tie that into the catalog and all the different teams that we have, we can develop kind of some dynamic org charts that will hopefully keep us from having to, manually update org charts like however often it gets done. I can just assume that's a very manual, tedious task right now. Another piece is pulling in resource fulfillment demand signal opportunities. So we have the resource fulfillment tool at our command. We have an area of opportunity section within the IPT catalog that we could provide a link, and anybody that's interested. So we have new professionals come in and we talked to them about this catalog, and they said, oh, that's excellent, because they have to do rotations. And they're like, it would be really cool if I could come in and see all the other work that's done throughout the command, and maybe there's something I'm really interested in. If we can tie it to the resource fulfillment tool or the demand signal tool, then they can find something they like, and then they can go to that tool as well and then apply for it. Would just be really awesome to have that capability. And then the last one is something that's come up recently, is being able to push knowledge and info capability to our users directly. So that's where Steve Frail actually came in, and he got me involved in this today and briefing to you guys. And he said, hey, I really like the catalog concept. And have you thought about something like taking some small business contract information and trying to use some machine language processing, tie the resources together and say, hey, IPTs, we see that you're doing this kind of work here. Wanted to let you know there's a SIBR contract available if you want to try to spin up some work real fast. And then there's some other potential efforts or potential applicability to that with like NICE efforts, ONR, DARPA, OTA, IWRP, et cetera. I mean, the list is endless. If we can build something in place to take information from the database, then we can push meaningful information out to the IPTs instead of them having to try to figure out again who to go to and where to go to look up information on this. We can send them there utilizing this tool or capability. So that's one of the things, or these are a few of the things that we're looking to do as we move forward and continue to gather requirements from the catalog or from users on the catalog, excuse me. And hopefully it takes off as we're intending. And with that, that is my presentation. I wanted to leave hopefully about 10 minutes or so for any open discussion. Again, I'd be very interested to hear what other teams or folks are doing at their commands to share information across their teams and kind of foster that horizontal comms. Hopefully I didn't get lost and I'm still connected.
No, you're still here. I
All
love that
right.
you're actually sharing amazing government tools that are actually working, because I'm gonna give a shout out to Sylvia Rivera. She's one of our wiki experts, and she's done a lot with our diversity, equity, inclusion group. So she said, "Hey, we have all these links. We're sending all these emails, things like that." And she just dropped in our wiki and did some fancy things. Also using it for our recruiting pages, using it for people to store different trainings and things like that. So we're really pushing using Wiki as that shared database to house our things. So yeah, who else is using Wiki? Like, love, come on, government people, where you at? Where you at? How you using? Got another one. Hold on, I'm coming.
So yeah, hi, Todd Gaston from NAVSUP headquarters. Don't know if everybody can hear me or not. I'm the large gentleman back here. So yeah, we use Azure DevOps for our wiki, very similar to Jira, if you guys are familiar with that. We moved into it for project management and software development. Very similar to what was described here. Lessons learned, common strands of development. That way we're making sure we're not duplicating it. But yeah, we would be happy to join in and become a community of interest on record, because I know we're not.
See, yeah,
Sweet.
and I'm from NSWC Carter. So yes, we're using Wiki too.
Josh, it's Frail. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Good, sir. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you think LANT would? Oh, the camera swivels. This is high tech, folks.
Y'all got a whole kitchen over there? Are you kidding me? Wow.
Do we? Hey, don't show everything. Don't show all the good stuff that we're hiding from the virtual folks. No. Hey, Josh, if like NAVC Crane, Indian Head, or Panama City came to the CIO, Sabrina Lemire, and said, "Hey, can we have that back in that whatever you this I want to say code, but I know it's not. But can we have that whole system that you've developed and take that wholesale down to our warfare center? Would you think NIWC-LANT, sort of a loaded question? Do you think NIWC-LANT would be willing to share all of what you've done with the other warfare centers? Thank you.
Yeah, most certainly. I think we'd be willing to share. Now, I definitely don't have the authority or the knowledge to know if we could share exactly all that we have, but we would definitely be willing to give what we can to help anybody else develop or build that. And again, I know that the Jupiter environment is looking to pull in a whole bunch of data across DON and DoD, I think, to share this kind of information so we can further collaborate across all the different commands and organizations. And I don't think anybody would be opposed to that over here at NIWC-LANT, sir.
A question back here too.
So I'm curious to better understand the relationship between IPTs and like branches or group sectors. So for us, for example, I'm NSWC Carter. We're trying to build directories for our branches so that people have aware of the capabilities that are already, organizationally structured. IPTs are sometimes independent of branches. So I'm trying to understand the approach for you guys. Like, are you also doing the same thing for your branches?
Yes, and so that's why when we first started out, it was focused on the IPTs. But what we noticed as I dove into the tools myself is that there are what we call competencies, which is probably aligns to your branches. And we're a competency aligned organization. So our competencies have all the workforce, if you will, right? And they provide that subject matter expertise to the IPTs whenever they stand up their work. And so we're trying to first start off with the IPTs, capture that information, and then we're going to look at in the future, hopefully pulling in some competency data too, as it will be a little bit more different, a little bit more unique compared to the IPTs. Does that help answer your question?
She's nodding her head yes. And for the industry out there and the academia, each of the warfare centers are set up differently. Some of us have IPTs that are associated with divisions, and then some of the warfare centers still have branches. So we're set up a little bit different. We call each other something different under the Competency Alignment organization that happened back in 2000. I don't know, what was it, 12 or 11? But yeah, this is it would work the same for your warfare center, certainly. Maybe just have to change IPT to team or something.
Yeah, to just piggyback on that again, what I tried to highlight was something that everybody should have in their organizations, right? I mean, key technologies, processes, resources, and tools. I mean, those are universal to every team. And so that was the intent with the catalog again, is try to pick those high level data fields that are meaningful and will provide enough information to just make those connections, right? We don't want to dive into all the details that IPTs are doing and have them, make this something of a burden, like, oh, you need to update this every week. No, come in once a year, put this information in, keep it up to date. Maybe you come in once a quarter. You also let us know what's going on, share some of your accomplishments with us, share some upcoming schedule events. Thought process being, if there's some folks coming out to a symposium or they're doing an exercise, maybe an ANTX exercise, they find out, hey, we're going out there too. What are you doing? Maybe there's some potential for collaboration and we can make a better presentation or demonstration at those exercises.
Josh is frail again, so I'm going to put you on the spot once again and ask you about timeline. I think all of it's super interesting. Super interesting that we're talking about how it's helping you internally. But when do you think you'll have that last part done to where we can share information and take input in with the, whether it be NLP or however we might share to get cyber information or share other information with other warfare centers? What's the timeline for that neat stuff? Thank you.
Yep. So right now the plan is to hopefully get all our IPTs on board. Again, in this COVID environment, everybody with their head down, focus on their work. One of these little extracurricular activities is what I like to term it, pops up and they just kind of look at it and go, eh. So hopefully we can get some buy-in from them and we can start getting this thing populated. I'm shooting for the end of the calendar year. And at the same time, while we're gathering that information, we are looking at pulling in information from, like you had mentioned, the CIBR. We're looking at our, what we call NICE right now. It's our S&T projects. We have a website called Stairs where we house all that data. We want to pull that in and associate it to the IPT within the catalog. And so we're going to be doing that kind of development work as we're moving forward. So I'm hoping that probably by spring next year, maybe we'll have a really nice product that we can come forth with and collaborate further on with the rest of the teams and organizations there.
Josh, we've got just a few minutes left. Ashley, I'm gonna take over for you while you get ready for walking around. But Josh, I truly appreciate it. We had Bob Smith here, so Bob Smith's been getting a lot of play this week because I love the CIBR program. I love what we do there with the small businesses and how we have the phase ones. And once we go into phase two and want to take somebody into a phase three, there's no competition. We just go for it. So that's really terrific. I also like how you've brought in the NICE portion of this too. We have 77 active NICE projects down at NIWC Atlantic. And that's just NIWC Atlantic. There's NICE proposals all across the warfare centers in the federal, well, in the Navy, Department of Navy, the warfare centers. I mean, NOC-AD has, they have a very large budget for their NICE. I think it's almost $70 million a year, if I'm getting that number right, $70 million a year for NICE, for internal projects. So now imagine collaboration back and forth and being able to search those NICE projects from NIWC-LANT to NOC-AD to Crane, to be able to see what each other are doing. So there's the workforce connection, the workforce connection. The other connection would be that CIBR portion. And Josh, I'm sorry, I keep looking back there like you're back, but I'm sorry I took so much away from you, but I'm really passionate about what you're doing because I see the value. I see the value in us moving faster with technology to get to the solution. So I think that's it for Josh. So thank you, Josh. You're not there, but we'll clap at this little icon, this avatar.
Virtual fist bump. There you go.
You did phenomenal. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time and effort in preparing for this. And thank the PAO down there for me too. I know they're sticklers about everything, but I gotta love my PAO, right? So we are gonna go to tours, right, Ashley? Where'd you go, Ashley? Do you still have a mic? No. Oh, you do? Oh, your mic's on the thing. All right, so we're gonna start with some tours. Now, I will make an announcement that I believe, Jen, you give me the thumbs up for this. The other stage areas really want to close that off because that's where our challengers are going to be, right? So the global stage area, the challengers for tomorrow's event, they're closed off with Lieutenant Beach, known as Roast. Roast is going to be over there with his the challenges that have come in, and they're going to be working some things. So we ask that you not go over on that section. Let them have that whole global stage area for themselves. But you can hang out here. You can go on the tours down at the Expeditionary makerspace, which is the little Connex box down the way here. And I think we're going to go see the tilt thing for ships when we 3D print, little thing that was built under Ben Buffard. I think Ben Buffard out of NIWC funded that neat thing. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Look at that. See that? That's
We can't hear you. We can't still hear you, Ashley. Ashley, your mic's off. All right, can you hear me? Yes. All right. So I said, if you've ever been and she's phenomenal. I'm really excited. I'm going to turn the camera around her. And yeah, if you come to Building Momentum, we're going to put Cheyenne in front of you until she brings life into this world. So then we'll have the amazing Alex. So yep, here you go.
So my name's Cheyenne Dwyer. I'm the Senior Director of Experiences for Building Momentum. This is Brad, our CEO. We'll tell a little bit more of his story here in just a second, but you're probably wondering why Building Momentum's giving you a tour. So Building Momentum owns and operates the building that this has been happening in all week, and we are PIA partners with NavalX, so we get to do lots of awesome stuff. I myself get to travel around and do facilitation events, plan events such as this, do industry days, kind of all the stuff you imagine PIA partners get to do, as well as some tech scouting, which we're going to show off there in our other facility. So I know there is two kind of fab labs here on premises today. There's this awesome one, and then there's that green ISO container down there. What we're actually going to do is down at the end of this facility, that green ISO lab and then makerspace behind it are owned and operated by Building Momentum. So we're kind of going to show those off, show you why we built a mobile lab, and then some of the tech scanning we've done. And then I'll lead you back up here and leave you in the very capable hands of the folks who can talk you through this fab lab, which I certainly am not qualified to do. Make sense? Awesome. So we're going to walk this way first.
Told you she's great. She's awesome.
Expeditionary lab we're going to show you is built for the U.S. Marine Corps. So one of the big contracts that we have at Building Momentum is we own and we run the Marine Maker program. What that is a program that seeks to make Marines problem solvers on the battlefield wherever they might be. So we've trained, almost 3,000 Marines at this point in coding, 3D printing, welding, electronics, drones, all this technology. Traditionally, it's a 5-day course called Innovation Boot Camp. Learn away with 3D that's been way and how to get it there. So COVID slowed us down a little bit, but go ahead and peek your head and you'll see kind of all the capability that's jammed into this tiny lab.
One quick note on this is that everyone makes mobile labs. We've made 20-something maker spaces. There's two really interesting things about this that are worth noting. It's cheap because, let's be honest, any mobile lab is just 4 walls and a bunch of gear inside, so these shouldn't be expensive, but they are. In the government, they're really expensive. This is $170K, all fully loaded, ready to go. And it uses a big battery wall, like a Tesla battery wall inside. The idea is that you turn your generator on, you power up the battery wall, and then you shut your generator off. Save gas, save maintenance. So it's just little things like that. It doesn't have to be expensive. This is not rocket science. You just put stuff in a building and call it a day. So that's the unique part about this, is that it's inexpensive. We also learned something interesting about this lab, is that to get it qualified to go on a C-130 or to get it mill transported, it has to go to Aberdeen, and they will spend about $1 million testing it to make sure it can do that. You can get 5 of these labs for that. So I've been trying to talk to the Army or the Marine Corps and the Army, because we have actually 4 more orders of these coming up here soon. Like, don't do that, right? Like, if you don't have to put it on a plane because they don't want you to wreck it, then don't, because it's 1/5 the cost of the testing, right? If it breaks, who cares? Buy 4 more.
So you're just shipping as opposed to putting on the plane?
So commercial shipping, if we can. So Japan is trying to figure out if they can use it in their processes, and I already have a logistics team that will do it in 60 days and get it out to Japan. Australia wants one, and Fort Bragg, they just called me today, and they may want one, and the Marine Corps has another 2. So we might be building another 4 to 5 in this facility. And actually, I took that building as well, although I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. But we might be pushing mobile labs into that space too. So
let's go inside too. Cheyenne, can you take us inside?
Right, come on in.
Cheyenne, can you show us inside?
Oh, sure. All right, so inside of this lab, you can see lots of technology. So CNC, we have a mill, we have some 3D printers behind you, as well as some laser cutters. And then all these drawers you see are just stuffed full of electronics, Arduinos, drone parts, anything you might need in a situation where this is all you have to make solutions. There's also solar panels right there pinned up against the wall. This is obviously getting ready to ship. So those are the solar panels that will power this lab wherever it might go, which is why it's so great for Hater mission if it needs to be, because we don't need a generator, which is great. Big area for us to teach if we need to, or for people to work. And then one secret thing that we have learned is underneath here is a compartment that's actually a secondary door out. That way, if for some reason that door gets blocked by T-wall or whatever it might be, you might be in kind of an explosive situation, you have a secondary way out of this lab.
That's fantastic.
Yes. And then back behind here, back in kind of the storage area, there are welders and some more hand tools to kind of really give you as much capability as physically possible in this tiny space.
Why have I been here for 2 years at Naval X? I've never been inside. Thank you, virtual tour, for making this happen.
Absolutely. All right.
But yeah, it's we have solar that trickle charges. The next one we're building is a little more integrated. Turns out Tesla was not a big fan of us taking all their stuff and sending it all overseas. They said initially they would love to sell us some stuff, and then we're like, yeah, it's gonna go to Syria. And they're like, about that. So we have to piecemeal a system together, but but I think we've gotten the right vendors and the right things to have the solar trickle charge while the battery is being charged by a generator and things like that. But
Let's go show them our new toy, Brett.
yes, we got a new
Oh, love new toys. Let's come around. See the new toys. Come on, walking tour people.
All right.
Feel like a little the school teacher with the sign. All right, class. All right, class, come on in. Ooh,
This is our latest toy. It's only been here a few weeks. So part of our great relationship with NAVAL-X is we get to do some really awesome tech scanning, and we get to look at new technologies and see if they're worth it for the Navy. For instance, can this go on a ship? Is that a reasonable thing, or is that not worth the squeeze? So that is what we are getting to do. So this is a POS machine. Here you see a hot end that does metal 3D printing, and then directly next to it, you see it will mill out that piece that you have just made with metal 3D printing. So this machine is pretty unique. You can't even order them on the internet right now. We were able to get a hold of one, and now we are going to test it and throw it through the ringer and see if it is worth it. We are also, if you look over there behind Brad, you see a bunch of argon tanks. That's a lot of argon to keep on a ship. So we are testing a few other materials to see if there's another way that we could use this machine that does not require 12 massive tanks of argon always on board. So just a few great things that we are doing with this. I will pass around. This is a test print.
I want to see it.
Yes, this is a test print we have done so far. Like I said, we've only had this for like 2 weeks, so we haven't really gotten to fully dive in.
Wow, that's heavy.
But my team is dying to do so. They're very excited by this machine. Right.
Me.
Yeah, but I'm a ship. I didn't know I was supposed to answer. Just making sure. I got your phone, so, trade off later.
So you guys that have been on a ship, I can imagine that you don't want an entire, several rooms filled with argon. So we're trying to figure out how to use nitrogen instead of argon to do the 3D printing.
Because it's super explosive, right?
Well, it's just expensive. Argon
Expensive?
It's hard to find. It just takes up a lot of space. So if you have a nitrogen reclamation system, it'll just be a lot easier.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, let's look inside of this thing. Where they did those 3D prints. Check that out. Up close and personal. Woo.
Great.
Look at that. Oh, you scared me.
It prints metal. I do not know what kind. Do you know what kind of metal this prints?
Not offhand.
No.
I haven't gotten up to speed on
It's
that.
really hard to get up to speed on this because it's not listed on the internet, so you can't read a manual yet, which makes it very difficult to learn all the information. I tried last week. Awesome.
All right.
So there we go.
Does it have to, once you print it, does it use or do you have to let it cure?
Yeah, this is
So
pretty
that's
fancy.
like
This is
the
heavy too.
boards that you can
Check
put on
those.
there.
Check out those layers. You see that? Look at those layers.
Awesome. All right, one more fun. Oh, there we go. Steve's ready.
Steve likes to read. Reading is fundamental.
All right, Steve. So we're gonna head back this way. I know that machine is fun. All right. So where we're taking you next, so like I said, this is called the greenhouse. This is one of 2 machine shops here on premises. The other machine shop is housing the Marine Maker training this week, where they're building autonomous robots in 4 days, which we are doing a tour of a little bit later today. But this machine shop is the slightly higher end one. I like to say it's the machine shop that takes probably more than 30 minutes to learn how to use a tool, and something that needs a little bit more oversight. We built this shop as a place that some of our 3-letter agency friends or other groups that we were working with could come and work a little bit more openly and not worry, hey, is that kid learning to weld at summer camp going to run right through whatever I'm working on? This is kind of a space dedicated to them. You'll see a bunch of locked offices back here. Those are all those folks I just mentioned. They have locked offices. They get to work behind closed doors and do whatever they need to. Have access to all this machinery and our training that goes along with it.
Why do they do that? Rapid prototyping? What are they doing?
They are doing rapid prototyping. They are doing fixes of things that are in field that they have got sent, all sorts of work. you'll see these 3D printers and some Superpits here on the wall. These 3D printers go to every Marine that we train, or every service member that we train. I'm sorry, we also train DTRA, FBI, and a few other groups. And then this Superpit is over $800 worth of electronics that every single Marine gets when they go through Marine Maker training, and we train them how to use absolutely all of it.
Wow.
So, back here is another tech scan that we were able to do through the PIA. So if you guys want to come on in. So this is what we affectionately are calling Sam Tech. I know it's a small room, squeeze in where you can. We can prop open this door probably if we need to. Oh, all right. Come on in, guys. So what this is, so NAVC yet again came to us and said, we really want to be able to test if 3D printers can go on ships, but we don't really know how to do that in a way that doesn't cost a bunch of money every day to run some sort of very fancy and sophisticated material stuff. So what we did is we said, give us a few $1,000 in 6 weeks and we'll build you an alternative. So what we did, we built this. This is what we call SamTech. This is a way for them to test all sorts of 3D printers and say, will that 3D printer print at XC state? Does that make sense? So I will go ahead and, so as you can see, as it is printing, it is going to just start moving that 3D printer around. We have then subsequently under NAVAL-X done testing on a bunch of different 3D printers and turned those reports into the Navy and said, this printer performs really well under stress. This one, maybe only use that on land, or whatever the results might have been. We have also done a filament scan since then of saying, hey, this filament might work really well at sea. This filament might not work really well. And that all gets turned into anyone at the Navy that wants it. We have also released it to the Marine Corps. We are not precious about that information. It is not our IP. It is fully for anyone who wants that information to know which printers might be useful. So I will step out of here and let people cycle through. Feel free to take pictures, do whatever you need to. But this is our SamTech.
This is pretty phenomenal. Like, I've seen the one that they have at Carterock, and it's, you know, fancy, super expensive. I watched them make this. Look at this. You can, these little cheap parts, cutting and putting it together here at Building Momentum. PIA partner with NAVAL-X. I'll stop moving so you can see this.
And like I said, it can do all sorts of sea states. So I have it going pretty slow here, but it can go pretty quick.
Let's do category 5 hurricane. How about that? No. Hey, what's in these things? Are there sand in here or water? What's in here?
Weights. Yes,
Weights?
all weights.
Look at that.
So that is SamTech.
Have you done an open maker S5? How did you mount it?
Wow.
It's
All these pulleys.
It was like nothing on the S5.
I truthfully don't normally do the testing, so I'm not sure exactly what they did with the S5 specifically. But
We mounted one in the Fab Lab, which is why I was like,
Yeah.
I saw one in your mobile,
Yep.
mobile tablet too, but it wasn't mounted.
yeah, I think I'm not totally sure how they mounted it onto there. All right, I'm gonna stop this guy and auto level him.
I changed my camera around. Like,
All right.
so I literally watched them make this, and I was like, what are they doing? You know, I'm the kind of person who walks around, asks a lot of questions. When I walk in the lab, I say, what are you doing? What are you making? Because there's always something different, something fantastic.
So, like I mentioned, we've done a few other tech scans. We've done things such as a filament guide. We've scanned all those 3D printers and done a few other things for NAVC, the Marine Corps, and really anyone else who asks. That's a great partnership we have with the PIAs. We're able to do some of this tech scanning relatively quick and relatively cheap, so that the military knows what the next choice might be or next decision point they want to make. I see people checking out the Superpit. It is a very fun Superpit. You can definitely lose days and hours and months on end playing in one of those things.
Hey, Cheyenne, what's this?
So this is a slot car track. So once we were kind of traveling around and doing all this military training, we realized that we could also take a lot of that problem solving that we teach in 5 days into a one-day class for executives or for teams. So this is what we use for slot car. So that is, I will take your team through a full day. They don't have to have any experience. We will teach them electronics, welding, and laser cutting. And by the end of of the day, they will build a slot car that is powered by a water wheel they have welded. It really stresses your team out in all the best ways. You guys get dirty in the workshop, and it shows all where your communication barriers need to be worked on. And then on the back end of that, we do a facilitation of what went well, what could we do better, and how you guys can take this back to the office and lessons learned. So,
Program officer with NAVC did that recently, didn't they?
yes, we did it with NAVC-05. We've also done it with DAU and a few other groups, all with great results. They had a ton of fun. It's definitely not your average work day because you're, welding and laser cutting and doing all sorts of fun stuff. But it's a really, really great day. If you have a team that you really just want to make sure is coming together as best as possible, this is a great way to test that out. Awesome.
Thank you.
And if you guys peek in here, this is just our R&D lab. So where we do a lot of that tech scanning I'm talking about. More printers, more gear in there.
More printers, more gear. Let's see all the different 3D printers they have. Lots of little different ones. Look at that. Mark Forge, Ultimaker, Pulse. What is this? Mojo. Check that out. Ultimaker. They really have tested all different 3D printers. Look at this. Another little classroom. Well, there you have it. Agility Summit attendees virtually. This is great. This is a phenomenal place. Like I said, so one of the different things I'd like to talk to is the different warfare, the different tech bridges and their environments, because every tech bridge is different. Every tech bridge has a different uniqueness to them. The one in the Washington, D.C. Capital area, this is the space to do our co-working space. My mask broke, so that's why I look kind of funny. But yeah, so just we're actually going to take you guys again a little bit earlier. We went to the Marine Makers course that they're training 8 Marines from all over the country, and they're making the autonomous. And for those that join, the autonomous robot that's going to follow a beacon, so it's going to like follow them around. And I thought we were going to demo it tomorrow, but I guess
Oh, we're live right now? We're ready? This is fantastic. We're live right now. Okay, we're back. So we're kicking it off 5 minutes early. We've had Ashley that gave a tour with a handheld. She had to use my phone. Her phone is burning up in my pocket because it's still running whatever application she had on it. Not that you all need to know that. We did a great Fab Lab tour. Then she took the group down to the Expeditionary, the Marine Makerspace Expeditionary Connex box. I'll be going out to the MEFs. And then I think they went in to see one of Ben Bouffard's projects out of NAVC, a oscillating table where there's a 3D printer in the center, and they're seeing how that prints while the ship is in movement, both X and Y axis, and some other geometry figures that I have no clue about anymore today. But I do have with me today, you like Rick or Rich? Rick. So I've got Rick with me today. I met him over at the Forge with PEO IWS. Admiral Okana is as IWS actual. So another PEO is here today. We had PEO MLB here today. In fact, Dave's out there representing. I don't know where Noel and there's Shannon, right? There's Shannon representing today. But you're going to talk about something pretty cool that I think you've been in the works for like 3 years on. Yes, sir. Yeah. So if you grab that mic, go on that mic, and it comes out. Okay. Have a great time. There it is. I know you're all going to be excited about this because this is an interesting way to do software in the future. Rick, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Testing. Good. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody, virtually, as well as those who are here and drinking beer in the background. My name is Rick Jandron. I work for PEO IWS 1. So PEO IWS, for a little bit of background for everyone, is the program office responsible for developing, fielding radars, sensors, weapons, undersea warfare, and combat systems to our surface force in the Navy. So what I'm going to talk about is what we're calling our Forge, which is a enterprise surface force software factory, very much inspired in the software factories that have been happening across Air Force, Army, some other Navy efforts as well, and want to kind of give a status of what we're trying to do, some of our near-term objectives, what's working for us, what's not, and really what's unique to the Forge as a software factory, and areas where we're really just kind of ripping off what's worked in the wild and making some minor tweaks and deploying it for our purposes. All right, so first thing, I just want to dive into an overview on slide 2 of what we're doing. So the Forge, we are located in very close proximity to the University of Maryland. We definitely want to find some good tie-ins with academia, get a good intern pipeline going on, and again, do a lot of collaborative research with the university. So we're working on that. The Forge, what we're really trying to do is drive to a force-wide integrated combat system where we can have an enterprise portfolio of mission apps that we're able to field with runtime configurations to the entire surface fleet. So we kind of started off as an acquisition focused on just a few very focused ship classes, and we're really trying to take that to an enterprise standpoint so we can do good for the entire PEO. So what we're doing is we're providing both a physical innovation hub, again, up in the Maryland area, but fundamentally this is entirely cloud-based. So we're going to be offering a Impact Level 5 cloud for all of our developers to be able to work in, aligns with the best in kind of zero trust security principles, minimizes risk of any remote development that will be going on, and really allows us to get to the best talent and to handle things like pandemics and other things that arise. So we're pretty excited about that kind of combination of both the physical innovation hub to really focus on the culture and flesh out the processes, but also be able to scale that remotely as well. And again, the number one thing is here, we're really trying to empower our government talent to work directly with industry across whether it's software teams, engineering teams, cybersecurity, et cetera, to directly provide that impact, provide the guidance, and really convey the commander's intent of the requirements that are flowing into us from the various PEO IWS programs, and be able to code, stage it, and get it deployed swiftly. All right, for chart 3, I'm going to dive into a little bit more on, I think I want to capture, if you can go to the next, I want to capture a little bit on, again, what we're targeting in terms of enterprise delivery. So you can see we're not just targeting a single ship class. We're trying to be able to develop software that fundamentally supports multiple ship classes. We're going to leverage the best of breed in terms of development environments, starting off in Platform 1 to do some initial push-ups. We hope to migrate into the Black Pearl ecosystem very soon, leveraging existing commercial cloud to streamline the need to stand up custom infrastructure for our development, capturing the best of breed processes, contracting strategies. I'll dive into that a little bit later, as well as, again, the physical hub is really intended to inculcate that organizational culture. Programs generally are not kind of run as lean startups, and Agile can be a little bit of a culture shock. So we really wanted to have that in-person hub where we could kind of be separate from the Washington Navy Yard. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it kind of helps us to kind of operate a little bit differently and get into the right mindset to collaborate, to build that trust, and ultimately to succeed. We do plan to continue putting our software through all of the paces that we put it through today. So we have a pretty robust set of land-based test sites that we send software through today. We intend to continue to do that, but the intent is we hope that through additional batteries of automated tests that we don't have to so heavily leverage the site. And intent, again, is that sending software through that, test in a tactical configuration, hopefully that's just a formality check and we find maybe a couple bugs, whereas right now we do kind of struggle to get through that. It's kind of a continuous loop of found a bug, fix it, and kind of unmask another bug. So hopeful that the battery of automated testing that we use and some of that upfront MBSE can really help us to increase the quality of what we deliver to the fleet. Next slide, please. Quick background on the Forge, in case anyone wasn't tracking the mythology. So the Aegis is kind of the shield of Zeus, and that is crafted in Hephaestus's forge. And so that's how we arrived at the name. So that's where we're trying to craft that software to defend the fleet. Next chart. So why did we stand this up? So I mentioned earlier, today we really do struggle to deliver not only at speed, but then when we do try to accelerate things, we end up having to let the quality suffer sometimes. And what we're trying to do to increase the quality of that delivery is to maximize the flow of work, optimize that system and that process for continuous delivery. Today, if we want to do something fast, you almost have to stand up a special tiger team that gets to operate under a little bit less constraints. But then eventually you got to be able to suck that back into an official delivery to the fleet. And so we're trying to make delivery at speed the status quo and the norm, vice the exception. And it's going to take some time to do that. So we're really trying to flesh out our processes, the agile cadence, and evolve that over time. So it may just be we're able to deploy every year up front, and we can try to shrink that cadence, but you really got to dial it in first and get the right talent involved. We want to have the fast and consistent feedback from the fleet and have the fleet involved really much up front and, again, consistently throughout that development process, because it's not just engineering requirements that matter. It's about sailor usability. It's about the building the right product, not just a product that meets the spec. So we got to have the right spec as well, and really need to have that high trust culture and the delegation of responsibility across the program, and more of a fail fast kind of a culture where we would celebrate, hey, it's a great thing that we, task that work out for the next sprint. 3 weeks later, hey, maybe that was a bad implementation, but we learned it 3 weeks later. We didn't build the wrong thing for a year, learn it upon delivery to a fleet milestone, and have to go back to the drawing board. So the implications for our development process is working on those ties with the user, with the user base in the fleet. We're looking at joining the software pathway, which would enable us to migrate to, many of you have probably done the research. The concept is you would have a capability needs statement that we would work with the sponsor, as well as a user agreement that the program office establishes with the fleet that really defines what's the cadence of that fleet interface and what is the fleet going to help us to do, and where do we need to really contract out for expertise if the fleet's not able to support that. And again, optimizing that value stream. A huge takeaway is for the government to own that development pipeline. So really from cradle to grave, we want to ensure the government has continuous access to our development pipeline. It's much easier from a reporting standpoint, of course. If we need metrics, if we have our government team in there, we can be continuously capturing those things. And like I mentioned earlier, we want to have product owners involved who are setting the requirements for the Scrum teams on a sprint cadence, as opposed to, okay, we got to go work a contract mod and get that negotiated. So I'll touch on that a little bit more later. All right, and next chart, please. So that's a basic overview of why. And so now I want to get into, all right, well, we're not just another software factory. but we're not completely different either. I know a lot of programs say, well, we're different and none of that stuff applies and we can't really capture any of those best practices. Usually not the case. There's always going to be something that you can glean from a lot of these commercial world best practices. So yes, what's unique about our program is we do have to field to surface combatant platforms. And that entails some very high complexity embedded systems that we're driving. And there is not, unlike a Netflix beta push, there is not a very high tolerance for mission failure here. And so we have a lot of evidence that we need to generate to support being able to go through the wickets to get onto a ship in a tactical environment. And associated with that, there's a lot of stakeholders who, rightly so, need to be plugged into that evidence and make sure that we're generating the right products to be able to support a swifter delivery cadence. So we've been having a lot of engagements with the safety, the certification, the cybersecurity community to make sure that we're building in all of the metrics, all of the evidence as part of the development process, as opposed to kind of bolting it on at the end, which is kind of the current status quo. So that's the huge game changer with trying to do continuous delivery in a mission critical system, is bringing in those stakeholders, automating the evidence in the dashboard in accordance with what those stakeholders need to see. So again, it is a lot of paths, a lot of wickets to get through, and we're making good incremental progress. Yes, question.
The point you just made is spot on with the challenges we've had in our organization as well. Are you doing anything special like training those stakeholders in DevSecOps in those specific tools so they know how to get in there, look at those dashboards and understand that information? Because that's the gap we're really seeing right now, is trying to get people who do our setter reviews, the people who do our test agencies, those type of folks. I mean, this is a brand new skills for everybody. So what kind of steps are you taking to overcome that challenge and get everybody together so that they understand what they're doing here in this new world?
Awesome. Great question. I've found it's a lot of really peeling back the onion. Obviously, one of the tenets is minimizing the unnecessary work. And so we've kind of looked at things, if we have a safety plan or a certification plan, and kind of said, well, what's most important? Is it this big bureaucratic document, or it's the evidence, really, right? And so it's peeling back, well, no, I need the plan. And it's like, well, you don't need the plan. We need to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what it's going to take for this system to be declared safe, effective, et cetera. So it's been mostly peeling back the onion and trying to abstract. Generally, I've found it's harder to get all the right training and the stakeholders into the system. But if we can build a dashboard that's minimum, hey, as long as you can log into this cloud environment, you can pull up this dashboard. I found that that's kind of the way to go, and abstract the really busy stakeholders who still have to deal with programs that bolted on at the end from having to learn all the technology. Yes, sir.
So recently there was a article in Politico on Platform One. Don't know if you've seen it or not, but
yes, sir.
In respect to accreditations, ATOs, the RMF process, they're getting a lot of pushback because the security is there, but the documentation is not necessarily compliant or in the right format. Are you taking steps to kind of balance that so you can avoid that potential pushback?
Yes, sir. And basically what we're doing now is we're doing kind of a trial run of our process with some non-shipboard applications. So we're looking at doing some shore-based IT. For example, we have a great deal of test sites that I mentioned earlier, and they all use different schedulers. And so we're looking to do some kind of basic scheduling apps. So again, just think of it as kind of general Navy IT systems. And we plan to deploy that on P1 IL5. But we're kind of doing a test run there, and we're working very closely with cybersecurity community to make sure that we have a clear understanding of the path forward there. So certainly Platform One was kind of the DoD gold standard. We wanted to at least get plugged into that pipeline. But there has, as you mentioned, it's kind of become a bit of a lightning rod. So we're keeping it simple with some basic IT apps. We'll test that out. Obviously, the Navy's kind of standing up the Black Pearl, which is essentially a digital twin of that with a little bit more customization of some of the cyber, kind of taken into our own hands in the Navy, the cybersecurity controls and things like that, so that we have effective process mapping and the spirit of make sure it's cyber secure, not just compliant. So yeah, we're definitely keeping our freedom of motion there. And I certainly read that article this morning, sir. Thank you. Let's see. So I touched on what's a little bit unique about trying to get our software to ships. Another thing that's not necessarily unique, but just to clarify, we're certainly in a brownfield modernization environment. We don't get a huge runway for a new blue ocean greenfield program to replace a lot of the software we currently have. The intent is that anytime we're building an upgraded user interface or a new battle management or mission planning capability, that has to be able to plug in very seamlessly with our current software environment. And that is the challenge, is you pay a little bit of a penalty by having to go down a brownfield, kind of a strangler pattern approach to over time modernize as opposed to in one fell swoop. We've certainly had similar modernization efforts in the past. I won't go into detail, but we've learned a lot of lessons from those, and finding the right amount of new software to introduce to the fleet at one time is a really important thing. So to the extent we can have a healthy cadence of small updates and to work out some business rules with the training community, with the tactics development community on, hey, maybe for certain of these updates, it's very small, it's transparent to warfighters, it's just a quick one-liner user guide of, hey, by the way, we updated this back-end algorithm. But certainly for other things, like the user interface, it's one thing we can say, well, it's really intuitive, don't worry about it, but it's a very custom interface that we field to sailors today. So going from custom military to a general app on a phone kind of intuitive thing is going to be, that would be too big of a leap. So we're working with them on small incremental updates, get the feedback, then build the next small increment so that we don't end up down the right path, down the wrong path. Okay, so next slide, please. So I now want to talk about how we're similar to other software factories and where we're using what survives in the wild. So we discussed just now the Platform One, Black Pearl, trying to use kind of the gold standard of secure, effective development pipelines is really the takeaway here. So we are operating in Platform One for some non-mission apps right now to exercise the process, but we do have Black Pearl on the roadmap to migrate to very soon. Been in close touch with the PEO Digital folks on that. And certainly we're no different from other factories in terms of we're anchored on the Agile principles. It's all about minimizing the unnecessary work, building that really healthy, trust-based environment so that we can move really quickly with it without getting out of sync, and really trying to focus on critical outcomes and outcomes for the warfighter, really. So I want to reference a couple things because Matt Kennedy was really core to a lot of the stuff we're doing. You've probably seen some of his YouTube videos on Agile acquisition, 5 to 7 minute videos, incredible. It's just such a simple concept. Highly recommend those. Matt was out of Department of Treasury last time I worked with him. So the concept is you bring in the right talent. So you focus your acquisitions on identifying the best talent that can work in your ecosystem and try to employ very simple contract types like fixed price to bring in the talent and paint a technical landscape of the type of work that talent will be doing, but to allow government product owners to incrementally task that talent every sprint. So whether that's a 2-week sprint, a 3-week sprint, et cetera. So to provide, a roadmap initially of here's kind of where we're going, but to maintain that freedom of motion, really have that kind of sprint-based tasking. And so it's a lot of work up front in terms of contract development. But once it's awarded, it's a very simple, there's almost no contract mods needed since you've consistently have product owners tasking those teams. So very foundational to what we did. We leveraged that in our IT ops and cyber SMEs that we've brought on. We leveraged, again, kind of leveraging what's out there. We leveraged the Platform One talent BOA to bring that company on. That was via a small business set aside. So we're really happy about that, and that's going really well. We're also prototyping this software factory by bringing on cross-functional mission app teams. That's via the Marcor Syscom C5 consortium. That's working really well. We use the capacity-based approach for that as well. And we are partnering with Catalyst Campus for technology and innovation. We are leveraging currently an Air Force Research Lab partnership intermediary agreement. And I'm now working with Paul Herbert and Angela Falcini out of NIWC-PAC to put in place a follow-on. So we actually have a follow-on PIA, and we're working on a follow-on task order that can support the Forge Innovation Hub as a service, as I like to call that. So again, it's been leveraging a lot of existing agreements, existing methodology, and just making small tweaks to it to serve our purposes. Okay, next slide, please. I think I have just a couple more. Near-term objectives. So I talked earlier all about right now high value, low complexity things. So we want to be able to get value to warfighters, heck, value to Navy civilians, whatever that may be, very swiftly and not dial up the complexity too much. We want to get some quick wins and gradually increase the complexity. And again, that complexity really comes down to, I talked about the brownfield challenge that we face. We have some pretty intense technical performance measures that systems need to meet to field to the fleet today. So everything from availability of the systems, basic things like firepower and reaction time, time sensitive processing. So we've got to meet that. That's part of the challenge. And we're kind of focused on areas that are less likely to impact that initially so that we can really dial in the process, get the team up to speed, and then start cranking up both the capacity and the complexity over time. Minimize variables early. That's a key thing. Like I said, we're exercising that party bus pipeline with some non-mission critical apps at this stage for some site schedulers. And then very much focused on warfighter apparent changes. So everything from the user interface to battle management aids that abstract some of the technical nuances of the system into some very user-friendly means to achieve high-level mission objectives and support, again, both mission planning and management of the battle space. So again, the key paradigm here is instead of locking the schedule and the requirements up front in this capacity-based contracting approach, we're bringing in the talent, we're locking in a capacity with an ability to scale via contract options, for example, and then allowing the requirements to flex as the program moves forward, as sponsor requirements change, as the world evolves, as the threat evolves, and so on and so forth. That's working really well for us so far. And again, we have a lot of work to scale up. So just trying to take that basic process, which today is sometimes years for each stage, right, for requirements development and fielding, and really crunch that down into bite-sized pieces, which enables warfighters to get us early feedback on finished products, i.e. software, and secondly, allows a better buildup of automated tests and just a much lower risk posture. Okay, and my final chart is the get off the stage, and I'll open it up for questions. But bottom line, again, we are in the College Park area. Everyone is welcome to reach out to me. Phone number here. The Forge LinkedIn page, highly recommend that as some high-level information on what we're doing, and certainly welcome questions. And don't hesitate to contact me to come up, collaborate, have a quick tour, and see how you might be able to plug into the ecosystem. Okay, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Talking about sprint planning, having your product owners and your users involved, how successful have you been in getting that dedicated support? And do you have any lessons learned on that? Because that is something difficult we always have and we want to go agile, is getting that participation and buy-in.
That's true. And we are very small right now, which helps. We have about 4 software teams. And there is going to be a challenge trying to scale to scale that up a lot with government product owners. So we're good for now. But again, we're very much drawing from the natural places we would as a program from our field activities and from some of our technical representatives. So that is a challenge that that's asked about a lot. And I can just say, it's all about that training pipeline, and it's really all about the talent pipeline, making sure that we're trying to attract the right talent into the government to be able to support that. So we're always looking at ways that we can supplement the core government workforce with, engineering support and those kind of things. But it certainly is an inherently governmental task, in my opinion. Sometimes it helps to have a contractor product owner kind of counterpart to that government product owner that can help to offset a little bit of the capacity of the government that's needed. But it's certainly a core government role, and we're always looking for ways to hedge against that. But more to follow on that. And at the next Agility Summit, hopefully I have some better data for you. But definitely an insightful question. That's part of the challenge. Other questions? Okay, well, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for listening. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. Hope to see you at the Forge soon. Thanks, everybody.
So Rick, I did miss it. Did you show pictures of the Forge? Because that's a pretty cool space too.
It is a cool space. I think if you hit up the LinkedIn page, plenty of pictures.
Oh yeah.
I do a bad job of copy pasting into PowerPoint, so please check that out. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is pretty cool here too.
Yeah, when
healthy
people,
competition. So
yeah,
that's
people
good.
say, yeah, you have classified space. No, I'm going to send you. I call them Friends of Naval X. It's definitely POIWS's Forge. Really great facility, building that huge space for those kind of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just nice. I just love it. Pop them all over the world. That's what we're doing. One makerspace at a time, right?
And shout to you, Ashley helped us out with our POIWS Industry Day. So we're hoping you're up for that next year too. So thanks, everybody.
So what we're gonna do next, we're gonna take everybody who's in person is invited to come over to the shop to take the Marine Makers course. So I know we were having presentations that were going at the same time, but so tomorrow we're gonna do the demo of what the Marines have been working on. But today you guys can have the demo in the shop. So we just went out on a tour with Cheyenne. She's gonna give us a walk around in the shop so you can see. I'm gonna bring the virtual audience as well, but you guys can come and see what we're gonna be teaching, like what they've been teaching all the Marines and sailors in different branches of military. And you guys can meet over in the shop and see you in a few minutes. Wait, we starting outside? We meeting outside? Oh, meet outside, and we're gonna walk into the shop that way by the registration table. We'll be with you guys in 2 minutes. It works? Say hi, Steve.
Hi, Ashley.
Is it working? Awesome. I probably need to take this out. It's so loud in here. Great. All right, y'all. You ready to hear more? Come on in. So I will go over really quickly who we are and what we do for folks who weren't on the last tour that I just gave. So my name is Cheyenne Dwyer. I'm the Senior Director of Experiences with Building Momentum. We own and operate the building. We do a few different things. What we're going to show off to you today is our Marine Maker training. So we run the Marine Maker program, and what that means is in 5 days we teach Marines coding, 3D printing, welding, CAD, electronics, drones in 5 days. And we do that as something we call Innovation Boot Camp. That Innovation Boot Camp, the purpose of that is to make them problem solvers. Let's give them the skill sets they would need to solve any problem on the battlefield. That's not just their weapon, right? Other things that they can be exposed to. We started this program because our CEO and CTO were embedded geeks in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they were training PhDs to go over to those places. In doing that work, they noticed it's really, really hard to teach PhDs how to find the human problems that these Marines are facing. It's an extra skill that not everyone has, right? So let's just teach the Marine, the warfighter who's on the ground, how to solve their own problems and cut that PhD right out of that loop, right? Send the really hard problems back to them, back to the labs and the places that we know do that work well, but not every problem needs to be solved by those folks. So that's kind of how Marine Maker was born, and that's why they started the company. Since then, we have trained every single branch except for Coast Guard, which some would consider yes and some would consider no. To even say next week we are training Space Force. So we really have hit everyone. We have done 1 week innovation bootcamp classes. Right now, some of our folks, to include our director of training, are down in Fort Bragg teaching the Tier 1 operators down there in a 2-week course. First week, standard innovation bootcamp. Second week, just drones. So we have really branched out to a lot of folks. We have trained DITRA. We are getting ready to train FBI here in a few weeks. So we really have quite a large reach. With the Marine Maker program specifically, we trained almost 3,000 Marines to date. To include all through COVID, we did it virtually. We turned a bunch of offices in the back into just virtual training rooms. We trained people all the way in Australia, all the way in Japan, and just continued training as much as possible. So this training is a high touch time training. As you'll see, these Marines are actively, looking at code on a computer, but actively building things. So all of it is problem-based learning. So what it is we're going to teach you code in 4 hours, and then by noon tomorrow, we're going to fight robots, right? So let's use what you just learned, and let's actively build something or solve a problem you have on base. At the end of the week, we conclude with a capstone project, and that capstone project is either sourced from base and is a direct problem Marines have said, this is a problem we have, or it's problems we've seen before out in the field, as we ourselves have trained in Kuwait, Japan, Hawaii, kind of all over, right? So I have some flyers here, and then the other flyer I want to talk to you about before we show you exactly what we're doing down there is something called Innovation Elevated. So that's what I myself am kind of in charge of here at Building Momentum. So I did the Marine Maker training for about 2.5 years. Loved it, absolutely adored everything and all of the Marines that I trained. And then we realized the skills that we're teaching the Marines are also really useful in corporate settings, right? Let's bring them in. And we started getting people asking, hey, if I want to, bring in a leadership team or bring in my team of engineers or employees to run through here and do some team building, could you do that for us? And I said, sure. So we built out a program to where you could either in a half day, 1 day, or 3-day session, come in here and build stuff with us. And then I myself am a trained facilitator who can kind of take notes on how your team is interacting, how they're doing together, and you will learn a ton about how your team interacts. We did this with DAU, and Jim Woolsey, the president of DAU, recently said it was the single best 1-day learning he has had on the job ever. He learned more about how he leads than he has ever learned in all of his years of government service, which I take as very high praise. That was awesome. And we did that training 2 years ago, and he only told me that 1 month ago, which was really unfortunate. But so there's a flyer on that Innovation Elevated, a flyer on Innovation Bootcamp, and then one last packet we have is one of our tech scans that I was talking about earlier, that 3D printing guide. So since we work so much with the Marines, we were going to use some of our tech scanning dollars from NavalX to create them a document to understand what filament to use and when 3D printing, but not in a way that is only written by a PhD. A PhD did approve this, CTO. However, this is written to be very easy to understand, very easy to use in the field without really having to understand a bunch of technical words. I myself, not a PhD, I myself went to theater school, and I understand every word of this, which means it's a great document to hand out, right? All right, so back in here, you'll see, so we have 3 Marines from California, 4 Marines from Lejeune. And what they are doing is they are building an autonomous robot, 2 autonomous robots. That robot is going to follow them around with an IR beacon. So they'll have a little beacon in their hand. They'll walk around and it'll follow right behind them. That robot's going to be able to hold up to 80 pounds. It really can hold more. I watched one of our trainers over there ride it around last week, so it can definitely hold a lot more than 80. But this robot is a great example of how, land is a hot topic right now. Autonomous systems, very hot topic. This is only created in 4 days by these Marines. So if you give these Marines a little bit of leeway, in 4 days, they can do a lot of really, really awesome stuff. And then they could take this platform and really imagine if you gave them 2 weeks. Imagine if you gave them a month. What could they really do, right? Some of these Marines had been through our standard innovation bootcamp. Some of them never. So it's a good mixture of some of them learned everything about code in the last 4 days. Some of them had a little bit of background, but not a ton. So this is, you can kind of see up top are laser cutters, down is the wood shop, and then my favorite part is the back there, the metal shop. I myself am a welder and really enjoyed that land. So feel free to walk around, ask the Marines any questions you might have, or myself. They are just heavy building away, and then tomorrow at lunch they are going to demonstrate their robots for you guys and have those little beacons follow them around with their packs on them. So any questions before I let you guys kind of walk around and enjoy? Awesome. If you guys end up having any questions, my email is on the bottom of that Innovation Elevated flyer, and then our Director of Trainings is on the bottom of that Innovation Bootcamp one. Great. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is Cheyenne, CHEYANNE @buildmode.com, or contact Ashley or any of your NavalX friends, and they will get you in touch with me.
Don't contact me. I'll be gone in 2 weeks. I'm just going to push you to them. Hey, Marines, what you doing?
We are
not Marines? What are you doing?
We're working on an inventory for our company.
Oh, what is this? What are you building? What are you making? Why are you at Building Momentum doing it?
These are agricultural sensors, and we're Building Momentum. It's a great place if you do kind of work with which is technology development and hands-on prototyping and then light manufacturing.
Awesome. Look, I should have saw 2 long hair on the side. Not a Marine. I know. Let's go see what they're up to. I know we saw some stuff earlier. Oh, what's this, prototyping? Is that what this is? Look at that, cheap prototyping. I think I got some Amazon boxes I could have used to do this too. Oh, yeah. Yes, we came around. Look at they're quoting here. Look at all the knickknacks and toys around here. I say toys. Tools are toys. What is this? Oh, looking at tolerances. What, these are like 3D printed? What? Well, that's cool. Checking out different tolerances. What you guys doing?
Hey, how are
I'll
you?
give you the backstage. You're gonna be at your test tomorrow.
Awesome. Hopefully you get to see this thing perform.
So what you doing there?
Right now we're wiring the boards that are going to control the motors. Basically tell it go left, right, back, forth. Things like that. It'll also control our camera, which is going to pick up the IR light, which this is going to follow.
You were a professional before you got here and doing this?
Definitely not. No, this is very inexperienced with all this.
Oh yeah. What about yourself? You got some training before?
No, I used to plug for like living, but this is like new for me, so I've been learning a lot. This is pretty experience.
This is great. How did you guys get involved with this? Like, how did you get to come here?
Honestly, my boss hooked it all up to the building momentum, and then he's like, "Hey, do you guys want to go to this?" And we're like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's go." And then we're here.
Yeah, you think are they gonna let you take this home with you?
No, definitely not. Maybe I'll get to ride it around though.
Oh yeah, well, I'll be here for it. We'll be here for it.
Awesome.
Where are you guys from? Oh, sorry. Hey, ask your question.
What's your normal day job before you came here?
Yeah, what's your day jobs?
So we're both in the Marine Corps. Right now we work in a place called the Makerspace for 2nd MLG. We're really into computer-aided design and 3D printing right now. So when Marines have an idea or they see a problem in the Marine Corps, they come to us, and we're kind of the people that say, "Hey, we can help you come to a solution. We can help you design something." Or if they have an idea, it's kind of our job to poke holes in it, try and say this is where it could fail, and just kind of walk them through their process.
You both are from there?
Yes.
Nice, nice. And there was like 2 more, so let me go see what they're doing too.
Yes, please, great people.
Nice.
Big competition tomorrow?
I am. Looking at the winner right here, sir.
Hey, so there's 2 teams?
And there is 2
Uh-oh. What are you guys gonna name yours? What are you naming it?
What was our name? Our 3rd team member knows the name. He said it. I forgot it though.
Oh yeah, we're gonna find out the names. Let's come get the 2nd team over here. Can I bombard you? What you guys doing? What are you learning?
Trying to upload some code right now
Some code? Code to do what?
to control the robot.
Oh yeah?
Motors.
Did you have some experience before you got here when you did that?
Not with this kind of coding.
Oh, so what kind of coding do you do?
G code.
G code? Where are you from? Like, I mean, so what was your job before?
Machinist.
Oh, you're a machinist? So you kind of knew a little bit of the tinkering and stuff, right? Little tiny bit. Nice. Let me get a picture of that code. That's cool. What's that? I should take this. I can do it in 2 weeks. Yeah, I did it in 4 days. I know they said they were going to use this as the remote controller there. Checking out some of these prototypes over here. Look at that. Over here, prototyping, learning. Look at that. Guys, Marines saving our country and innovating one lab at a time. Do you know what they're printing right here? What is this? What's happening?
I am not sure.
Wow.
Probably housing for all their electronics fed, yes.
Ah, housing for the electronics. Yes, that makes sense. These do look like they can house some things. What is that in your hand? What's this for?
It's just tips.
For Arduino
wire.
boards?
No.
Wiring?
Wiring, yeah.
Okay. All right. Rosebud thorns. Oh, so if you guys didn't know, this technique is called rosebud thorns, where they actually give their feedback on how the training is going. So let's see what they were talking about. It's actually a facilitation technique we use to get feedback, and getting that feedback, you can make quick adjustments on what you're actually doing. So let me see. Good stuff. Friendly staff. Always love that. Friendly staff. Oh, no corona. Yes. Got coffee. Good stuff. AC. Questions being discussed and questions are being answered. Check that out. Code is really longer than expected. Kind of understanding the wiring. Like not enough time, of course. Never get enough time. Coding is just tough enough to learn quickly. Yes. More time to projects. Looks good. Some of the things, no cold water, don't have the schedule yet. So when we do facilitations and things like, oh, look, here's a prototype right here. When we're doing these techniques like feedback of getting rosebud thorn, you're actually getting the adjustments that you should make in class. And we use that for the Center for Adaptive Warfighting as well. Yeah, this is some good stuff. All right, so yeah, looking at these prototypes, they're gonna be ready to compete tomorrow at lunchtime. Gonna take you guys back soon. right, guys. So here you have it. Oh, let me get outside. It's kind of noisy. Got saws and stuff here. Like work is actually being done. It's happening. Check that out. All right, everybody. I think that's it for the virtual tours today. That's it for the virtual tours today. But we'll be back in a little bit to have the rest of our sessions for this afternoon. They'll be broadcasting from both of the stages. Backstage, we had the challenge. The challenge that NJOC was hosting is going on. They were actually doing some of the pictures, and so we'll be up next. I forgot they can put on the screen what's actually happening past this tour. But yeah, so take you probably back in the Fab Lab tomorrow. Might have been a little bit noisy. We'll get some better. Oh, I think the Fab Lab's leaving. Let's go again real quick. Let's see. Fab guys, can we go again for our afternoon audience? You have like 5 seconds.
Only because they need to pick up the vehicle.
Oh, look, they got to get the vehicle. They got to go. They got to leave. So look, guys, check out this Fab Lab. Go to Knock AD. Pretty awesome. I'll be coming there if I can come and play one time too with the kids. Like I'm all right. All right. We'll see you guys backstage in a little bit. Bye.
30. So about for year 28, she'll be hovering. And then you'll have a mic runner. One of the Marines will be your mic runner. I'll double check that because they're sitting there by now. You're going to get the own, so take it off. Yeah, take it off. Good, I should. I put on makeup for this. Now let me see. Let me make sure there's a mic runner, and then I'll be right back. And I'll stay. Test. You give me the word, Jen, and I'll start. Whenever we're live, just let me know. 2 minutes? Okay, thanks. If I want to still talk? Are you letting me do anything I want? Is that what you're saying? I don't have any jokes. I don't have any jokes to tell. Well, no, I'm totally blanking right now. Right, Grady? We'll just wait for the 1 minute mark. Someone take these apples home with them. If you have, I have donkeys in South Carolina and goats. If I had, maybe I should take them all home this weekend when I drive home. They'll love it. Let me tell you. They eat everything. Most of the vegetables. Each one ever picky, very picky when they go. They brush them aside. The other one likes that. This one. All right, so it's coming up to 1,500. We were just talking about my donkeys and goats in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. I'm with NIWC-LANT and Steve Frail. For those that don't know me or just tuning in on the live portion of this, PFC Underwood is going to be our mic runner today, right? You're going to be playing what is it, Hill Climber? Is that what the kids are playing nowadays? And you're not a kid. You're much older than that. All right, so I'm here today with Grady. Grady works. This is a great one. Grady calls me. We're doing the interviews of what contractor can present. We're not letting all contractors present. The contractors that are presenting must have an active contract with the Department of Navy, come in and talk about what they're doing with the Department of Navy and how they can share and collaborate with everyone across the scene. We didn't want to turn this into what might seem as like a tech rodeo, if you will, to where contractors can come in and ply their wares to the Department of Navy. We wanted contracts. So Grady works for Farracode. So I asked, hey, what contract? Well, none, but Iron Hawk. I can do Iron Hawk Technologies. I see you work for Farracode. So let me call the CEO and I'll get it. So he calls the CEO, we get an email, and here he is today to represent Iron Hawk. So though the shirt says Farracode, he's representing Iron Hawk. And he's going to do some kind of lion taming with these stools. He's got a whip back here. It's going to be a whole Indiana Jones presentation. Grady, take it away. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I'll tie together the Iron Hawk and Farracode before the end of the presentation.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
So we're going to talk about connecting the ships to the cloud or the ships to the shore. 80% of the ships in the Navy only have 80 to 200 people. A lot of times when I talk about bandwidth, people go, oh, it's a carrier. We have lots of bandwidth. Well, not every ship's a carrier. So the way satellite works is you have a small ship. That means you have a small satellite dish, and that means you have very little bandwidth. And then you take that satellite dish, you put it on a ship, and it's pitching, and it's rolling, and it's cloudy, and it's raining, and that further reduces your bandwidth. So what you need to do is figure out a way to get your tech manual updates out to the ship without jamming up the satellite. And this was the challenge I ran into at the Navy 15 years ago. Now, tech manual updates are just one of the issues we were looking at, but it's a big safety risk. So tech manuals contain errors. And the safety department of the Navy has recorded the loss of life and the damage to millions of dollars in equipment because people are using tech manuals that have errors in them. You've got a 24-step checklist. Mysteriously, check item number 8 is wrong, and something goes kaboom. This makes admirals really mad because these are preventable accidents. They were mailing CDs to the ships, and we found out that most CDs were never installed. Why is that? Because they don't get one CD, they get a whole stack, and they become very concerned about overwriting their existing data, even if it's wrong. So we would go out to the ships and we'd open a drawer and there would be a stack of CDs, look something like this. So we needed to take the human out of the loop, essentially. And so data replication or compression with delta differencing allowed us to do that. Now, this is not PK-zip. It does use some compression capabilities. But essentially what we're doing is a byte level differencing or a volume level differencing. We're sending the difference between all the data that we've sent to the ship in the past and the changes to the files on the shore today. This is a completely automated system. And at one point we were updating 1 million files every 4 hours to 268 ships over satellite and bringing back data from the ships as well. The LCS class ships are using this today. Here we go, 1 million files, 4 hours. So let's talk about how this works. So let's say we've got our 1 million files right here. What I'm going to do is run an engine against this, and I'm going to find all the unique bytes across all those files. And I'm going to create a database of those bytes. I'm going to keep a copy of that database on the shore. And I'll put a copy on the ships. That's your one performance hit. But once that's out there, you can reuse that database of bytes over and over again to update files and even create new files. So let's say somebody changes my 1 million files over here. The engine runs, and it compares the original database of bytes, which I kept a copy of the database on shore, so I don't have to talk to the ship. This is not WAN acceleration where two devices have to go, hey, do I have the newer file or do you have the newer file? Oh, you have the newer file. Please send me that file. Okay, I'm ready to receive the file. Okay, I'll send you the file. That's too chatty for satellite. So without even connecting to the ship, I can do the data duplication right on shore. And then that produces a set of files that are new, that are not out there, those unique bytes. I'll then zip it, I'll compress it into a single file. This is an important step because now I don't have to worry about latency because I'm not sending a series of individual files over 600 millisecond latency, right? I just got one file. Then we're going to encrypt it. That's the next important step. And then we make it available to the ship. As you know, because you're all in the Navy, you can't send the files to the ship. The ships have to initiate that download. So they start that process. Now, if at any time they lose their connection and the download stops, when they reconnect, we have checkpoint restart. So it starts where it left off, and it will continue to do this process until the whole file is downloaded, and we check to make sure it's complete and correct, and then we update the files on the ship. Question? Do we care about file types? No, we do not. This new technology has multiple compression algorithms, not just one. My original one just had one algorithm, and we applied it to every different type of file, and your mileage will vary. But with this technology, I have multiple compression algorithms, and I can add more compression algorithms. So whatever your file type is, 2D CAD, 3D CAD, PDF, Office files, it doesn't matter. Sensorization data, doesn't matter. We can still work with it. Okay, so what are we doing with this? About compression initially, but what we're really talking about is changing the Navy's business processes. So we talked about technical manuals, training on the ships. Admiral LaFleur was very excited when he found out we could get data to the ships over satellite. Why? Because the sailor's career was stalled when he went out on the ship because he couldn't take any more training, so he couldn't get any certifications, so he couldn't be promoted when he got off the ship. Delayed his career 6 months, a year, 2 years. So we put training on the ships and we can keep it up to date. Job listings. You're a sailor on the ship, you don't even know what jobs are available. Now you do, because we can get the job list out there. Moving buyers to shore. This is a very interesting scenario about changing business processes. Many ships had a buyer, a procurement specialist. For every person on a ship, it takes 10 to 12 people on the shore to support that person. So if we take the buyer off the ship, it's not about the support people. That buyer can now buy for 10 ships. So not only did I got a double benefit there. Not only did I not need the buyer on the ship, we just have the sailors take the inventory, run it through the algorithm, send it to the shore, and that person then buys for 10 ships. And then I need less support people on shore. Sensor data from ship to shore, predictive maintenance. We've done that as well. This is the ICAS program. They put sensors on the ship's engines, collected temperature, runtime, pressure, vibration data. That built up a 10 megabyte database. We couldn't get it over the satellite. Ran it through the algorithm, became 68K. Very easy download over the satellite to the shore, becomes 10 megabytes on shore. Then the subject matter experts get to analyze the data and they can predict which component in a ship's engine is going to fail before it fails. So then we can schedule the ship, the part, and the maintainer all to meet up at the pier, and we can fix the ship before it's disabled. That program alone saves $500,000 per ship per year for the lifetime of the ship. So we're not really talking about compression. Sailors' careers, this is Admiral LaFleur. This is the story behind this, putting training on the ship and all the benefits for that. So let's talk about the benefits of connecting the ship to the cloud. This is one of my personal visions. Because cloud, of course, has nearly unlimited compute, storage, analytics capabilities. Why shouldn't we be looking over the shoulders of the sailor from the cloud, getting data from the ships that we can then analyze, and then we can send information back to the ships or schedule or trouble tickets. I mean, let's set up a ticketing system, a scheduling system that works between the ship and the cloud. You can have everybody in the Navy looking at the cloud. Digital twin, this would enable that very easily. Antivirus updates, we've done tests. We can reduce them by 80%. And those things are growing, so that's important. Software updates. At one point, we had SharePoint out on the ships, but the software updates became so big, it didn't make sense to have something like an enterprise content management system on a ship with only 80 to 200 people in order to serve up the lunch menu. But you have lots of other software updates that you need to send out, right? Because software updates are a matter of cybersecurity issue. So you have to send them. And there's a technique to it. You got to do some pre-processing. You have to unpack them so you can get to the raw bytes so that you can run the algorithms against it and make it smaller. Digital twin, you can connect the cloud and the ship. Task management, sending out trouble tickets, taskers, to-dos, whatever you want to call it. That can easily be enabled as well. How are we doing on time? I'm fast. Okay, this is the next generation technical manuals in my opinion. I tried to do items 10 years ago with the Navy. We had algorithms that you could run your PDFs through, and it would digitize all of the schematics, and then you could connect them to databases, and you could see what voltage was on either end of the wire, et cetera, but it cost so much to turn a PDF into a technical manual that was digital that you couldn't afford it. Plus, it took like a year. So, what are you going to do with a couple million manuals in a year, and it costs $1 million a manual? So these guys have an engine that'll take your 2D and 3D CAD files, any kind of digital file, and turn it into essentially an item, which you can then connect to a shopping cart. So if you're a maintenance guy and you're working on an engine and you need a part, you can just right mouse click and order the part. Or you could search a warehouse. If the part's available, I don't need to order it. It'll tell me where it is, and I could schedule the shipping so the FedEx could send it to me. This is very powerful. These 3D drawings can become virtual trainings you put on the goggles and can literally walk through the engine room without even being on the ship. So now you can get trained before you get on the ship. And then when you're on the ship, you use the same interface to do your maintenance because you have the same visualization, but it's now connected to more databases and shopping carts and other devices. So it's very, very cool. And we can keep this up to date as well. Okay, here's a list of some of the things that could be done, should be done. Again, taskers, project management, inventory management, maintenance tickets, configuration management, all of these sort of things can be done when you can connect the ship in the cloud. That's a great question. Yes, I think you could use this to connect two clouds together. Why would you do that? Let's talk about clouds and cloud costs. Okay, cloud is what? Great storage, very cheap. And it's cheap to upload content to the cloud, right? In your data center, it costs $1.29 a gig per month to store data in a data center. In the cloud, it only costs 3 cents a gig a month. I worked on a project, it was going to cost $25 million a year to store data in the DoD data center. $200K a year in the cloud, in the commercial cloud. So save a lot of money. But you know what? If you're downloading your data from the cloud to your desktop or to a ship, downloads are expensive on the cloud. They don't want you to take your data out of the cloud. They want to be really sticky. So they make it more expensive. But if you had a data compression technology that reduced the amount of data you're downloading by 80 to 90%, you could reduce your bill by 80 to 90%. You could replicate data between two clouds. Everybody's buying some of Google, some of AWS, some of Azure. And of course, when you're working, you go, oh, that's another silo. Doesn't have to be. You could trickle the data between them at very little cost. And since it's only 3 cents a gig, you could have it in 2 places. You could afford that. Video, we now have compression algorithms that allow for streaming video. So that's something that's now capable. I love it when people say, oh, I've got to have video. I'm like, what decision are you making with it? I just want to watch it. Well, that's really expensive. One of my first techniques for saving money with video is turning it into black and white. Do you really need color? Not so much. Analytics on the edge and sensors. We've seen lots of presenters, and we've got some partners out there in the booths who are doing lots of analytics, but it's all in the cloud. So again, we can get the data from the ships to the cloud, send answers back to the ships. This is an example of a low-code, no-code platform that's being deployed or has been deployed already around the Navy. We've got NAVC-08, ONR, NMCI Labs, PMW 290, FMO, PO Digital, NAVC-03, NCIS PMW 205, 790. All of these organizations are using this platform, and we've already tested it, and we can get a 90% reduction on sending tickets between systems in the cloud and on the shore. All this is completely capable. This is not something that hasn't been done. It's being done. You just need to stitch these technologies together. But they're all out there, and they're all a great opportunity. Questions? Please. Thoughts, ideas? We just had a presentation from the Navy about agile development and software projects. Okay, how are you going to get them out to the ships? This is a great solution. Doesn't care what your file type is. Doesn't care whether it's wired, wireless. I've had people put updates on a USB key and walk them out to a helicopter or a Humvee and update it. Perfect. If you don't even have a network, you just had a CD, USB key, any kind of device that'll take it. I know it's late in the day. I'll be here in Las Vegas all week. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Any virtual questions either? No? All right. Well, I definitely always love a person that does real live demos. So I love the cloud, the ship to cloud, and the the books. That was awesome. Thanks, Grady. All right, a little bit ahead of schedule. Guess we'll be going back to the other stage for our last presentation for the day. Thank you so much.
about a year and a half. We were called the Naval Junior Officer Council. Before I introduce our director, Lieutenant John Rex Spivey, I'd like to show our trailer, our official trailer this year.
Challenging times are upon us, and a Navy-wide revival is in full swing. And where there's challenge, there's also opportunity. We've all been called upon to do what it takes to maintain the greatest naval power in human history. But change won't come easy. The pressure's on to make our rudder checks and truly embody a culture of excellence. Each of us has something to contribute, whether it be within or beyond the scope of our daily duties. In other words, we all have counsel to give and the capacity to receive it from others. The tricky part is figuring out how and when to give it. The Navy's a big place, and our leaders are under a tremendous amount of stress across every designator and rating, in every area of operation at home and around the world. The good news is, where there are just a few of them, there's a whole lot of us. And by us, I mean junior officers. Out of the 44,000 officers in the United States Navy, roughly 75% of them are lieutenant commander and below. That's nearly 35,000 individuals to lend a helping hand as our senior leaders make critical decisions to guide our Navy into the future. Now, to gather all of those inputs and deliver them safely to leadership, we're going to need a system. Here at Naval Junior Officer Council, we're working directly with the Office of the Chief of Naval Personnel and the Office of Naval Research to find a way to leverage the JO network and make positive contributions to the Department of the Navy. Now is our chance to step up, not tomorrow and not when it's convenient. We are Naval Junior Officer Council, and we are here to bridge the gap.
All right, thank you. So here is John Rex Spivey, Lieutenant Director of Naval Junior Officer Council.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's exciting to be here, but before we kick this off, I just want to first say thank you to the team here at Naval X. You know, when we created NJOC 2 years ago, we created it just to be in the room. And for 2 years, you've let us couch surf, be in the room, but more than just couch surfing and be in the room, you've actually empowered us to be a part of your team and to be a part of this effort in the Agility Summit. And so you've given us more than what we could have asked for, and we love it, and we're excited for our partnership and to continue to grow our relationship for many years here to come. You know, I look out here today and I see all this excitement. I see, you know, we're talking about, you know, AI, cyber, future warfighting technologies, warfighting systems. But, you know, as exciting as those weapon systems are in the future, it goes back to something so simple that Captain Van Buskirk mentioned on day one, and that's culture. And if you think about culture, it's what drives innovation, because it's people who innovate, and it's people who operate and deliver the warfighting systems that we are developing and creating. And it's our people that gives our country our asymmetric advantage. So bottom line up front, the reason why the Naval Junior Officer Council exists and is being created as the United States Navy's very first management advisory group is because we are creating a culture of excellence for our generation that works with senior leaders, bridging the gap to be a part of the solution set. So when we can go fight and win our nation's wars for our nation, and that's why we're being created. How do we get started? It started back in 2019 by Lieutenant Adam Johnson, a Supply Corps officer in the United States Navy. Adam was stationed at Japan. He did his first 2 sea duties out there. And then he came back to the continental United States where he was an instructor in the supply school. And then he came to an internship at the Washington Navy Yard. And then, as he often says, he moonlighted as the admiral's aide for PEO carriers. And while he was here in DC and at the supply school, Adam said, when I was in Japan, I didn't think that senior leaders in our Navy cared. I didn't understand the bigger decisions or what went into those decisions. And then I became an instructor. And then as an admiral's aide, I really understood that our senior leaders do care. I just lacked perspective. And he said, I also looked at my peers who are making their decision to stay in or get out of the Navy. And a lot of times they're making that decision, lacking that perspective of what they could do to be a part of the solution just as a junior officer. So he says, I want to create a system, a platform, a vehicle that empowers JOs to be in the room, to work with senior leaders, and to be a part of the solution. So what did he do? He did what JOs did best. He organized a happy hour, had a couple beers, and said, hey guys, gals, what can we do to work with senior leaders to make our Navy better? And thus, the Naval Junior Officer Council was created. Now, before I give you kind of the pillars of who we are and what we stand for, you're probably looking up at the screen saying, Counsel, spelled S-E-L. Do our junior officers in the United States Navy not know how to spell? And I will tell you, before you leave here today concerned about our education, that is intentionally misspelled. Because when we created this, we said, hey, we want to be working with senior leaders. We don't want to be just a bunch of gavel-banging junior officers saying, we have the best idea and you're wrong. Instead, we want to create a dialogue. So if you think about counsel spelled C-I-L, it sounds like a bunch of gavel-banging JOs. But counsel spelled S-E-L is inclusive. It's a dialogue. We all have the ability to give counsel, but more importantly, we all have the capacity to receive counsel. So that is our mission. We are bridging the gap between junior and senior leaders to work on solution sets. So intentionally, we are NJOC, spelled S-E-L. So that's kind of the background there. So our 4 pillars and how we got started was when we created this and came together as a group, we said we're going to do it based on 4 things. The first, retention. Some of the best people in our country's history have worn the naval uniform, and they haven't always made a career, right? It's people like H. Ross Perot, Senator John McCain. They didn't necessarily become admiral. If you look at the last 50 years of U.S. presidents, more naval officers have been U.S. presidents than any other service. They also were junior officers in the United States Navy. So the question that we had was, how do we retain the best and the brightest that we have in the Navy? How can we bring them a part of the solution that says, hey, the grass may be not greener on the other side. Instead, the Navy values you. Just come in the room and listen. And our goal with that being was, if the best and the brightest can come in the room and just listen, they can say, hey, you know what? I may just be a lieutenant, but it was an honor and a privilege to be in the room watching senior leaders make tough decisions. I don't know what I would have done differently, but when I'm in those shoes, I know that I'll be prepared and I'll be equipped because I'll be thinking about this for my entire career. If we can't retain those best and brightest, then let's retain the best ideas. Why would we not want to retain the best and brightest ideas of an H. Ross Perot or a Senator McCain or a Jimmy Carter or an LBJ? At the end of the day, we have some incredible people that come in our ranks, both junior officers, sailors, and they may only serve 4 years, 20 or 40, but let's get the best out of them while we have them. So that's the other thing. And then the third piece of that, let's create ambassadors for the Navy in the private sector. So, because we make better naval officers, we make better citizens. The second piece, feedback. A lot of us enjoy the idea of, I have an idea, but I don't know where to take my idea. There's proceedings, but some people may say, I don't want to write a public article that our adversaries can see. I don't know how to get my idea out in a public way that actually gets to the right desk of the right leader. So the second piece of NJOC was, let's create a safe space where junior officers can write their ideas in a private form that our adversaries don't see necessarily. You don't have to tie a name to it. But here at NJOC, if you send us your ideas, we will help you, connect you with the right people to enable your idea to be a solution. And then ideally, each year, we're going to have an NJOC publication, similar to proceedings, that takes innovative solutions and ideas and farms out to senior leaders that our adversaries don't see, but it allows our peers, no matter who they are or what they serve in the Navy, to bring their ideas forward. The third piece, and it ties directly into the previous two, is perspective. As Adam talked about, he lacked perspective. I lacked perspective as a GAO until I came to DC. We all lack perspective, and it's not our own fault because it's exposure, right? So as we created this platform and a vehicle to bring solutions and ideas forward to senior leaders, this is probably the most important piece of it, is giving our senior leaders a platform and an opportunity to, number one, show us that they do care about us. And then number two, and frankly, probably most important, give us the perspective and exposure that we are lacking and tell us why our idea is a great idea or why it's not a good idea or the barriers are in place. So we can go back, work with senior leaders and say, I understand the barriers. Now let me go back and see if we can find solutions around those barriers and be innovative, adaptive, and think differently for the future war fighting capabilities that we're going to have to deliver to defend this country. That's the third piece. And then the final piece, and what we think is the most important piece, is culture. At the end of the day, what makes this country special is the diversity of our people, the diversity of thought, and how we leverage each other to be better. We come and put this uniform on. We come from every state, territory, and walk of life. We look to our left, we look to our right, and we say, we are going to be better together, and we're going to rally behind that flag, the flag of the United States, a flag that has dignity, purpose, and respect. And culture is what's going to enable us to do that. So at NJOC, at the end of the day, our number one rule is to be positive, enthusiastic, and solution-oriented. And our other pillar, and how we get after that, is we engage, elevate, and inspire each other, those we lead, those we serve under, and future generations to fill our ranks. And that is why we are creating the Naval Junior Officer Council, to be that asymmetric advantage that's going to continue to preserve our freedoms and our way of life. And finally, I want to take the opportunity to just thank a few senior leaders in our Navy. The first two is Admiral Selby, Chief of Naval Research, and the Chief of Naval Personnel, Vice Admiral Now. Admiral Selby and Admiral Now have believed in us and have decided to both officially endorse us, co-signing our charter as the very first management advisor group in the United States Navy. So when junior personnel say that senior leaders don't care, I'm here to tell you different. Our senior leaders do care. And Vice Admiral Now and Admiral Selby are showing us that. And they are empowering us to be a part of the solution. So I want to thank both of those gentlemen for giving us a chance. And then finally, I want to thank the former Secretary Hondo Gertz. 2 years ago, we were couch surfing here at Naval X, and Secretary Gertz walks up and he goes, "Who are you guys?" And we said, "Oh, so we're just a bunch of junior officers. Who are you?" And he goes, "I was a JO once." And Secretary Gertz sat down with us for 45 minutes, just talking about leadership from a JO perspective. And at the end of the conversation, he goes, "Hey, I'm ASN RDA, by the way. Nice to meet you guys." And we had no idea who he was. But in that conversation, Secretary Gertz said, "We are creating Naval X to set the conditions for people to think differently, think outside the box, and come together for solutions for tomorrow." Secretary Gertz, if you're listening, thank you for the opportunity that you gave us here at Naval X, for believing in us, because you set the conditions for NJOC to be created. And because of that, NJOC is setting the conditions for the United States Navy's junior officers to lead the way for our country as we prepare for our country's challenges that lay ahead. Thank you. Standing by for any questions, and as Naval Aviator, going to end it with Fly Navy, beat Army.
Any questions for our future president, John Rex Spivey?
Hey, that was a great brief. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. And it was great to learn more about NJOC. I had not known that this thing existed. And so, as a Marine officer, I'm just curious, like, what's the Marine officer population inside of NJOC?
So that's a really good question. So I will tell you, when we first started this, Marines were part of it, right? And full disclosure, it was created by a bunch of Naval Academy classmates, and we reached out to our Marine Corps friends. We said, "Hey, come on with us." The intent one day is to eventually, ideally, bring the Marine Corps into this. But I will tell you, because we are now officially sanctioned by OPNAV, we are not part of the Marine Corps. So we are not at the ASN level. Maybe one day we can go there, but as we build NJOC, we are only a Navy service entity at this point. Now, there's ideally, if I had it my way, my future dream is for every service to have their GAO council. So while it's not necessarily official a part of us, we're a Navy Marine Corps team. So we invite anybody to follow our LinkedIn, be a part of our social media presence, or even email me directly or email njoc@navy.mil. And because again, this is about culture, it's about being a part of the solution together. So officially, it's not with the Marine Corps, but I will tell you, as we're a Navy Marine Corps fighting team, we welcome your feedback on how we can be better. And frankly, if we can just set the conditions to create a culture together, that's our goal. So we welcome it, but officially, it's not part of the Marine Corps yet. Yep.
All right.
Yep, right here.
Just wondering, could you give an example of something that NJOC has worked on?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we've worked on. So I will tell you, one good example was, so there's two, I think. And then there's a few other ones that tell even a better story, but I'll tell you two. The first was Task Force One Navy, right? So last year, June of last year, as the country was, the aftermath of George Floyd, the United States Navy stood up Task Force One Navy. And we said, hey, you know what? How can we help? We're junior officers. Let's help facilitate the conversations that are necessary and needed to create that culture. So we leaned in, frankly, and we were leading discussion groups and focus groups of not only junior officers, but of sailors across the fleet. We were, you can take a lot of quantitative data in a survey, but what we were focused on was the qualitative piece, right? The data paints a picture, but the qualitative piece is what tells you the story of why. And so we were able to bring some of that feedback to inform Task Force One Navy's report. That's one good example. The other good example was actually last year at the Agility Summit. So we had a group of midshipmen from the Naval Academy, and they had signed up to participate in this conference. Little did we know, about a few weeks out, we asked the question, hey, I was stationed there at the time, and I said, hey, did they get permission to be here yet? And they had not gotten permission, right? And so we made a few phone calls, and you could probably add a fifth pillar to this, but we jokingly say that we're the super connectors, right? Because oftentimes people are talking in their silos, but not always talking to each other or understand the bureaucracy in each individual silo. But because we were JOs spread out all across the Navy, we're able to leverage our JO network and say, all right, how do we get these midshipmen at the Agility Summit? How do we get them permission granted? How do we make this happen? And I will tell you, like, with the 2-week scramble, we made it happen because we leveraged the JO network. We said, hey, I've got a friend that's a fellow JO. I'm going to call him, and we're going to see if we can make this happen. Not only did we get the midshipmen here, the midshipmen actually won the event, and then we even helped introduce them down the road to Tech Solutions for follow-on funding. So while it's not necessarily this big, grandiose NJOC story, NJOC was the key ingredient in between the cracks. That was the super connector connecting the individual silos that helped enable those midshipmen to be a part of the solution. And I'll tell you, their idea was awesome. And instead of them not being a part of it, they were a part of it, they won it. And by golly, I hope that they make a lifelong career because those are some of the smartest kids that I ever saw. So it was awesome. So that's another good story. But
Any other takers? All right, thank you so much. That's NJOC. You can get a hold of us. We'll be here for the rest of the day and tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Well, look at the, hey, thanks, sir. And I love my NJOC because Roast over there offered NJOC help to PEO MLB. And that's all I talk about is PEO MLB because I love PEO MLB because they fund me. All right, there we go. And as he start, don't worry. The Marines and I have brought the tents in. The chairs are broken out. We did everything while the NJOC team was briefing. We didn't want the officers to have to go out there, sir, and bring things in. So the enlisted crew took care of it for you. All right, so we had another great, a great day today. We had really engaging briefs from everyone. And don't worry, I stood in front of the camera just a minute ago too. But I think it goes right over my head. We had great briefs today from everyone. We had a lot of participation. We had online questions coming in. The online questions, if you're a presenter today, go to Naval X on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Scrub, I think it's called scrubbing. You scrub to your place where you started briefing or presenting, and you'll see the questions come in. But that's only on LinkedIn, not on YouTube, right, Ling? Maybe just on LinkedIn. I don't know. Check it out. But someone asked, how do I get the question? Or Troy, it's the other way. You get it on YouTube, you'll see the questions. Okay, well, check that out. You can grab the questions there and then answer them. And then the presentations. A lot of folks have been asking for the presentations. Some of the presenters, they don't want to let it go. And no, I'm kidding, Troy. Some of the presenters maybe aren't going to share them because they're distro D. I'm not really sure what the deal is there. But we are going to collect as many as we can and then put them on the secnav.navy.mil/agility site for everyone to download. Now, if there is a particular brief that you want and you need it tomorrow because the barn is burning or something like that, and it will put the fire out, email me and I'll try to get it to you by Saturday morning, because Saturday morning I'm driving back to Charleston, and then you probably wouldn't get it till like Monday or Tuesday. But we're going to close out the day, but we're going to close out the day with a couple. We've got an event next door. I think there is a different live band next door. So virtual, are we going to stream that virtually? No, we're not doing that. Sorry, virtual world. We're not doing that. We're not the Boston Symphony Orchestra here. We don't have that much technology. But for those of you that are still here, please enjoy the band. Continue to mingle. The challenge students today, I know you're one of them, right? And then these folks here and some of you in the back there, because I haven't seen your faces quite as often as some of the others. I know you did some dry runs today. I don't know if they were successful or unsuccessful. I didn't watch them, but good on you for getting up here and doing the dry runs regardless, right? Somebody gives you a critique, don't get like me and get all bristly and mad about it. Take it in, evaluate it, see if it works, be a good scientist, and then apply it if it is worthy. So great. So Lieutenant Veach, I'm really excited about your challenge tomorrow with your challenge, folks. That'll be a great event. What time we starting, Ling? Is that 09 tomorrow as well? 10:00 tomorrow here at the global stage, virtual online. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.